Dan here, and in this video we're going to have as many trolls as possible start fights in the comments about feminism and gender roles and everything else, because hey, why not? So the question I'm answering here was left in the comments, and it is, Dan, I'm an ENFP and I love your videos. Can you make a video on your thoughts on traditional masculinity as a male ENFP? Can I? Yes. Will I? Reluctantly, because of all kinds of phenomenon happening in society right now with people arguing over anything to do with gender or sexuality and all this kind of stuff. But I do think this is a really important topic. Now for this video, keep in mind masculinity, femininity, those are concepts of sort of an energy and a way of being that can relate to either gender, right? So women can be very masculine in their energy in terms of how I'm going to discuss it here, right? So masculine energy in this sense is about being kind of action-oriented, going after what you want, being sort of stable like a rock, what you would think of like your traditional, perhaps manly man out of a 1960s movie, right? Feminine energy tends to be a little more creative, flighty, changing, and the two work very well in tandem. Now in a relationship, you can have a masculine female, you can have a feminine male, you can have, whatever you want within that mix, but it does tend to work best when you have a polarity there, right? And so that disclaimer aside, if you are a male ENFP, it's quite interesting because the ENFP energy tends to be more feminine, tends to be more interested in emotions, tends to be changing very often, right? In terms of changing emotions, changing moods, loving variety, loving newness, loving experiences. The masculine energy is often more focused on like accomplishments, building things, getting things, like your traditional sort of businessman investor type would be more of a masculine energy, right? Someone who wants to get into emotions and self-discovery and travel the world and, have a coaching business like myself is probably not as much in the masculine energy. But this can create some problems in a relationship because some of the ENFP traits are not necessarily the most appealing to a partner, especially if you are an ENFP man and you're looking to date someone who is more traditionally feminine and looking for someone who is more of a traditional male in that context, right? So the first thing I'd address is about being flighty or unreliable, maybe changing directions. Now, these can be quite an ENFP trait. As someone who, more and more as my ENFP videos have gotten popular here, more of my coaching practice has been with ENFPs, and I can tell you there's no other group of people who will talk to you, tell you they're interested in coaching, disappear for 2 months, then come back and hire you and be all over the map like that, right? Now that is not all ENFPs. Some are super reliable and on the ball, but in general, being kind of flighty, unreliable is an ENFP trait. That is not an appealing trait in a partner. Now, I would say it's not an appealing trait in any partner, but it is especially not appealing for most women in a man. I would guess if you were to survey, 100 women around the world, being able to rely on their partner, having a partner they can count on, who is trustworthy, who is, going to follow through on the things they say they will do, probably rates pretty high as traits women are looking for, right? So one thing that I learned as an ENFP, and this has helped me in relationships, it's also helped me in my business life and just my personal life, is to make your word mean something. If you say, I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to go to the gym, do that. Treat it like an extremely serious commitment. If you tell someone you're going to be there, maybe you come 10 minutes late, not a big deal, but you be there. You don't cancel at the last minute. You make your word mean something. That has a huge impact in all areas of life, as I've said, but this video is about masculinity and dating and all that, so it's going to mean a lot. Now this is getting a bit into like evolutionary psychology, right? And that can be controversial in some circles, but ultimately one of the things that evolutionary psychologists say is women are looking for stability in someone they can rely on for raising children, because there's a much more biological commitment, right? If we're just breaking down basic biology of what happens after sex, if a pregnancy occurs, men don't have a lot of physical changes, women have a lot. So wired into us on some level is that women are looking for someone that they can rely on for help raising a child or multiple children together. So they're naturally looking for someone that they can count on and that's going to be dependable, whereas men aren't necessarily worried about that, right? From a pure biology, evolutionary caveman sort of point of view, right? So that's the first area that I personally would look to work on, or at least be aware of that it is potentially a challenge in terms of relationships and that. Or if you are a male ENFP, you might be a better match with more of a masculine female who is someone who is very reliable, who handles the finances of the couple, who, earns good money and, keeps you organized, and you get to be your crazy creative self and that kind of thing, right? It's not the route I went down, but that may be the right route for you if you don't want to sort of learn to adjust and make some of these changes. The other area I think a lot about is being decisive. Now, ENFPs, we change our minds quite a bit, and that is fine in some cases. And often when we do change our minds, there is a reason behind it. I have a theory, I'll maybe make another video about that. We just do things quicker than most people, right? So we process things, we come to a conclusion a lot quicker than other people do. But ultimately, from the outside, if you're looking at dating and you have a partner looking at you and sees that the first date you were on, you told them about how you're going to become a YouTube star, and then the second date you said, YouTube's stupid, you want to start a podcast, and then the third date you said you're going to be a freelance designer, and then on the fourth date you're going back to school, probably this person is going to have certain judgments about how reliable you are and how consistent you are in your decision making, right? So something to think about. Learning to be more decisive and consistent can be beneficial in life overall. It's definitely, I think, part of being a mature ENFP. By mature, I don't necessarily mean age, but developing into your best self. But definitely in this aspect of dating and being the masculine male, I would definitely look at that. The last area I'll mention, and it's being very traditional, but you asked about traditional masculinity, is about being assertive and being a protector. Generally, people, men and women to be honest, like to feel protected, but in the traditional relationship, there is an aspect of the man as a protector, right? A lot of women prefer to date a man who is bigger, that helps them feel safe, these sorts of feelings, right? And so being someone who stands up for themselves, who's assertive, that sort of thing is really important in this kind of context. I've had experiences before when I've been out on a date and you have sort of the really creepy homeless dude strung out on whatever drug comes up and gets in my date's face. And I'll tell you, and I think most women would agree, if as the man you don't sort of step in or try to do something about that, it's not good for the sake of the relationship. I had a friend, and again, I hate that I keep going back on this, but people are so looking to pick a fight these days. Talking about, traditional senses, I know that there are many women who can kick the crap out of me, and many women who prefer to date a little tiny guy, and they protect the guy, all that, okay? I'm talking traditionally. I have a friend who told me about a fight he got into, right? Where he was out at this bar, and this guy basically groped his girlfriend, was a complete ass about it, and he started a fight. And I asked, how many people were you with? He was alone. How many people was the guy with? 4. But my friend's response to this, and he's not really a fighter, but his response was, I had 2 choices. I start a fight, and I end up where I get my ass kicked for the night, my shirt gets wrecked, or maybe I get punched a bit, a few cuts, or for the rest of my relationship, my girlfriend won't respect me, and our sex life will go to crap. That's sort of the situation there, right? And I think in many cases that is going to be the sense of people, if you lose the respect of your partner because you're being very flighty, because you're being unreliable, because you're changing your mind all the time, or because you don't stand up for yourself or stand up for them, on an instinctual level, beyond our education, beyond what we're wired, or I should say not what we're wired, what we're educated now to think, it can cause problems, because a big part of how we're wired is biology and just our lizard brain, and that's just how it is. We've evolved over millions of years, and we've only been really properly educated, and in that sense, anywhere from the last couple thousand to the last couple hundred to the last 20 years, depending on what part of the world you live in. And even then, our education system is constantly evolving, right? So from a lizard brain perspective, that has a huge difference as well. Gonna leave the video there. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I look forward to seeing that. If you think I'm not crazy, and there's some good advice in here, especially from my wonderful female viewers, I would love your comments below just to either say, Dan, you're a moron, none of that is true, you know, in a nicer way, or some reassuring, yeah, that's actually true for me, that's how I'm wired as well. Thanks for watching, catch you in the next video soon, and do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.